Jai Hind, Jai Bharat. To all my loving children, I welcome you to my virtual class today. The chapter which I am going to take up today is from your supplementary reader book. And the chapter is a short story by Victor Canning, A Question of Trust. This is a very interesting and a thrilling story, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. As usual, I've tried to explain this chapter through a PPT which I prepared, and this time I have just gone for a bit of change. I'll be explaining each paragraph of the chapter. I'll be not reading out the paragraph, but I've arranged the explanation in such a way that it will be going according to the paragraphs. Right, children? So, if you're having your textbooks, please open it. If you're not having, nothing to worry. I'll be sharing the PDF of your chapter also. Now, I'll be going to share the PPT because I want to start the class without much more introduction. Now, the chapter, as I told you before, by Victor Canning, is a very thrilling and an interesting chapter which you students would enjoy. I enjoyed this short story very much, and I'm sure that you would also enjoy it. The story is full of paradoxes, children. Harris Danby, who is the protagonist, the main hero of the one of the characters, the main characters of the story, he was a man of 50 and was unmarried. He used to have a good reputation in the society. Harris Danby, by profession, used to make locks, and he had two other helpers with him. Every year, before that, I want to say that Harris Danby had a passion of reading rare but expensive books. Children, every year he used to go for a robbery of a safe, and the money which used, it's peculiar thing I'm telling you, the money which he used to get, he used to use it in buying rare and expensive storybooks. He could use the money in buying luxuries, comforts, but he never used to do so. His main intention was to buy the rare and expensive books. Right, children? So isn't it sounding peculiar to you people? Yes. So let us see what is more there in the chapter. I think you would also enjoy with me. Come on, children. So the introduction. This is a story of two burglars who want to rob the same safe. Burglars means the robbers. Yes. The name of the first burglar is Horace Danby. He goes to rob a safe. There he meets a young lady who pretends herself to be the wife of the owner of the house. But in reality, children, she is also a burglar, which we would understand at the end of the chapter. Horace opens the safe for her. He leaves his fingerprints all over in the room. The lady enjoys the jewels, and Horace Danby is arrested by the police. He gets a term in prison. Now he is the assistant librarian in the prison. Right? About the author, Victor Canning. He was born in 16 June 1911 and he left us on 21st February 1986. He was a prolific British writer of novels and thrillers who flourished in 1950s, 60s and 1970s. He was personally a reticent writing on the memories and giving relatively few newspaper interviews. So, what is the moral? In the chapter, A Question of Trust. This is the most important thing which Tulika ma'am loves because this moral helps us to build our character. I tell you, each and every chapter, your poem, it has a message, it has a moral in it to give you a shape, to give a definite shape to your character. Right? The theme of the chapter is that you should not trust anyone without finding about that person. Now, children, I'm telling you, till now, as of now, you people, you are all in a secured place. Even if when you are coming to the school, you are in a secured place inside the boundaries of the school. You are all there secured in the proper guidance, care, love of your parents. Isn't it? Sorry. But the time is coming very soon when you will step out from these confined boundaries. And there you would need your judgment. Judgment to live your life independently. When you'll be moving out for your colleges, there won't be your mommy or your papa or your teachers to guide you. It will be a different life. So, you have to learn to judge people, to trust. You have to judge people to trust anyone. You should give time to that person before you trust on him or in him. The lady in the house pretended to be the owner and Horace trusted her words. She was a thief. But Horace did not suspect her and trusted her. Right? Not only trusted, he faced the consequences also. He went to jail for that lady. She took all the jewels. But all the room had Horace's fingerprints. And for that he was pushed behind the bars. Now what are the objectives? To enable the students to enrich their vocab, to enable them to enjoy reading the story in English, to stir your thinking. As I've started stirring your thinking by saying that you have to learn something, you have to learn to judge a person before you commit for your trust and friendship. Right? Now the character sketches. Horace Danby was about 50 and he was unmarried. He made locks and had 2 helpers. He loved rare and expensive books, children. He was considered a kind and an honest man. He had a good reputation in the society, but although he was considered honest, he was really he did not worth to have that uh, reputation in the society. Why? In reality, he was a thief. 15 years ago, he had been imprisoned for stealing rare books. He was not a typical thief, children. Typical thing means burglaring the safe, breaking the lockers, or intruding the home and plunging all the jewelries or monies. He was not a typical thief. He once in a year he used to break the safe, burgle the safe, and with that money he used to buy rare and expensive books. He stole once a year. Horace robbed a safe every year. He was now out and committing a robbery, and he stole to fulfill his desire to acquire rare books. He did not steal again and again. He wasn't a offender, repeated offender. Right. He stole only to buy rare books. For his next raid, Horace had studied now for his next raid, whenever he used to plan for raiding a house, he used to study that house, study the entrance, study the how many people were there, or who were the people who used to move in or out of the house. He used to make a complete study of that house for a long time before a raid. Okay, for two weeks at least he used to do. He had plans to burgle the house. Also, a thing to notice is that Horace was allergic to flowers. This may seem petty, but this is what ultimately led him to being caught. After 2 days, a policeman had arrested him for the jewel robbery at the Shotover Grange, leading Horace to jail for a few years, where he was there, and later he was appointed as a librarian in the jail. The lady in red. When Horace enters the house for burglary, he meets the lady dressed in red. Right. Horace mistook the lady in red for the lady of the house. The lady in red behaved and acted with an air of confidence and authority. He told Horace that she didn't expect a burglar in her house. So the lady was full with confidence, and this confidence deceived Horace. He mistook her as the mistress of the house. She told Horace that she didn't expect any burglary in the house. She also threatened to call the police if he tried to run away. Society must be protected from burglars like him. Horace told her that he robbed only those who had lots of money. He promised her not to do such thing again. He requested her to let him go out. All along with these proceedings, Horace Danby had been mistaking her as the lady of the house. Right? Now the summary. Horace Danby had a good reputation, children, in the society. He was about 50 and unmarried. He made locks and he had 2 helpers. He loved rare, expensive books. Horace robbed a safe every year. He was now out committing a robbery. For 2 weeks, Horace had studied the house of Shotover Grange. He had to burgle this house. Horace Danway entered the house. Horace had allergy from flour. He started sneezing. Then he heard a voice. The voice told him that he could cure the sneeze. It was the voice of a woman. She stood in the doorway. She was young and pretty. His first thought was to run. The lady told him that she would telephone the police. She would tell them about him. Horace Danway told him to let him go and forget she ever saw him. The lady put one condition for letting Horace go. She told him that she had promised her husband to take her jewels to the bank. She had, however, left the jewels in the safe. She told him that she wanted to wear the jewels in a party that night. She came down to get them, but she had forgotten the numbers to open the safe. So she needed his help, and Horace opened the safe for her. After 2 days, a policeman had arrested him for the jewel robbery at Shotover Grange. Danway's fingerprints were found all over in the room. He had opened the safe without gloves. He said to the police that the landlady of the house said him to open the safe. But the lady was 60 years old. She said Danway's story, and the lady whom he was narrating, the lady of that house, the actual lady of the house said the story, Danway's story, was a sheer nonsense. Alright? It didn't have any sense. Harris is now in prison. He often thinks of the charming and clever young lady. She was in the same profession. She had simply tricked him. Danway gets angry when anyone talks about honors among thieves. Now, children, I will start the explanation of the chapter. I would request you all to relate to the first paragraph of the chapter. Please go to the paragraph, a silent reading. Then I'll be explaining. 2 minutes time I'll be giving you. Read it. If you can read aloud, that would be good. If you read silently, then also you can read. Give a quick reading of the first paragraph. Then I'll start the explanation. Just 1 minute I'll be giving you. Till then, let me check how many of you are there in the class. Right. Are you reading, children? Now, Horace Danway, whatever you have studied in the paragraph, I've explained it, children. Right? I've given the word meanings also of that paragraph. Horace Danway was a 50 years old man. He was unmarried and lived with his housekeeper. The housekeeper used to worry about his health. Although he was fit and fine, but used to have hay fever attacks in summer. He used to make locks and used to earn a profit that was enough for him to hire 2 helpers for his work. Everybody used to think that he was a good and an honest citizen. But nobody knew that he had gone to jail about 15 years ago and served a sentence in the prison library. He got his love for rare and expensive books from there. Every year he used to steal money that would last him for a year, and with the rest of the money he used to buy books through a secret agent. This year, during the summers of July, he was sure that he would steal as easily without getting caught as he used to do every other summer. He studied the house over 2 weeks, studying the smallest details such as the electric wiring, the paths, the garden area. That specific day, which specific day? The day when he planned for the burglary. That specific day, the servants who were supposed to stay back on the days when the family went to London went out for a movie. Horace saw them leaving and was happy instead of being worried about the tickle in his nose due to hay fever. He then left with a bag that had his tools. Now, what are the new words, children? Citizen, a legally recognized subject or national of a state or commonwealth, either native or naturalized. Housekeeper, a person employed to manage a household. Hay fever, an allergy caused by pollen or dust in which the mucous membranes of the eyes and nose are inflamed, causing running nose and watery eyes. Now, sentence. The punishment assigned to a defendant found guilty by a court or fixed by law for a particular offense. Safe, a strong fireproof cabinet with a complex lock used for the storage of valuables. Now, grange, a country house with farm buildings attached. Now, go through the second paragraph. Silent reading within 1 minute. I'll give you 1 minute time. Give a reading, children. Are you following? Are you reading? According to Horace, there were about 15,000 pounds worth of jewels in the safe. He thought that even if he sold them one year, one by one, he would get at least 5,000 pounds, and that would keep him happy and content for 1 year. He also thought about 3 books that were coming up in the autumn and thought that now he would have the money needed to buy those books. He saw the housekeeper of the grange hang the keys on the hook outside the kitchen door. He took the key with a glove on his hand so as not to leave any evidence, any fingerprints. He opened the door, children, and he used to be very careful about the fingerprints. He then saw a small dog sleeping in the kitchen. The dog moved a bit, made a noise, and then moved his tail in a friendly way. Horace then said, "All right, Sherry," which was the name of the dog. See, how vividly he used to study the house before he raided it. He used to get first he used to study about the house, the parts and everything, about the servants. Then he used to make friend with the dogs, with the pets. That is why the pet dog wagged tail when he saw Horace entering the house. Horace called the dog by name Sherry, which shows that the dog and Horace were familiar to each other. So he used to work so much before he burgled a house. He knew that the trick to keep dogs quiet was to call them by their names and show them a bit of love. The safe of the Grange was in the drawing room, hidden behind a painting. Looking at the painting, he thought that he would collect paintings rather than books, but then thought that it would be better to collect books in a small house because pictures required larger space. Then, as he moved forward, he saw a bowl of a flower on the table. And remember, I told you he was allergic to flowers. He was allergic to the pollen grains of the flowers. He used to start sneezing. His nose was tickling due to the hay fever and the smell of the flowers. He arranged his stool and saw that he had about 4 hours until the housekeepers returned. The safe would not have been difficult to open as he had lived with the safes and the locks of all of his life. The burglar system of the house was not a good one. He went into the hall to cut the wires of the burglar system. He again sneezed loudly as the smell of the flowers came to him again. So he was thinking to himself that how foolish rich people were when they had valuable things, as he recalled that the whole plan of the house, including the information about the safe, was given in a magazine. He saw that the smell of the flowers was constantly making him sneeze loudly. So he put a handkerchief on his face and continued his work. Pounds means basic monetary unit of UK, equal to 100 pence. Autumn, the season after summer and before winter. In the northern hemisphere from September to November, and in the southern hemisphere from March to May. Stirred, moved, or caused to move slightly. Your mama stirs the milk, isn't it? Tickle, in a way that causes mild discomfort or itching and off, and which results into big laughter. Sneeze, make a sudden involuntary expulsion of air from the nose and mouth due to irritation of one's nostril. Burglar, a person who commits thefts. Hindering, make it difficult for someone to do something or for something to happen. Now go through the third paragraph. I'll be teaching you today till the third paragraph. I'll be stopping and you just go through, rewind my video and read the paragraphs, match with explanations, right? And again, after the third paragraph, next day I'll be starting with the next paragraph, right? Then somebody from the doorway asked him that, was it a cold or was it a hay fever? Horace quickly replied, hay fever, and sneezed again. The other person then continued and told him that she could she could cure it, provided he knew which flower caused the allergy. That he should see a doctor if he wanted to be a good thief. Then the other person said that his sneezing could be heard from the top floor of the house. The house was calm and firm. Then he got a bit nervous as he saw a woman standing in the doorway. The woman was young, she was pretty and dressed in red in color. She walked towards him and arranged the decorations kept on the fireplace. Then she ordered the dog to stay away and said that people might be thinking that she was away for a month and she was back in time and did not expect a burglar to welcome her back at her house. Horace was a bit hopeful as he saw that the woman was amused rather than being panicked or seek a burglar. He thought that he treated her well and did not do anything wrong. Then she might let him go. He also told her amusingly that he also didn't expect to meet the family member either, as he had thought that there was no one at home. Then she said that she realized what an inconvenience she was to face him and asked him that what would he do now. He replied that at first he wanted to run away. The woman replied that he could do so, but she would call the police and let them know that he was robbing her house and they would catch him. Horace replied that he would obviously cut the telephone wires first and then he would do something to her so that she was not able to do anything for a few hours. Children, she looked at him seriously and asked him that if he would hurt her. Horace replied that he was just saying that he would do anything to frighten her. But alas, she was not frightened by what Horace said. She said that it would be better that she forgot that she ever saw him and let him go. Suddenly, she spoke in a sharp and loud voice that why should she let him go? He was there to rob her, and if she spared him, he would go and rob someone else. She said that the society needed to be protected from people like him. He smiled and said that he was not a threat to the society as he stole only from those people who had lots of money. But she stole from for a good reason and he hated even the thought of going to the prison. She laughed at his reply and he was begging her not to call the police. Horace was begging only because he thought that he had convinced her to let him go. He was desperately asking the woman not to go to the police and that he would surely stop robbing people. He promised her that and told her that he meant that what he said. She then looked closely towards him and asked him that was he really afraid of going to prison? He shook her head and said that he would always like the wrong kind of people. This was an indication for Horace that she was also a thief, but he did not pick the clues. So, as I told you, that I'll be continuing the chapter till here. Hope you are understanding. I won't rush with the chapter. I have already shared the PDF and you can relate the PDF and go through the explanation. Those who are not having the PDF, those who have already you have brought the textbooks, please open the textbooks, go through the paragraphs and go through the explanations. Rewind the video and go through the explanations. Right? That's all. That's all for today. And I'll be again meeting you tomorrow with the rest part of the story. Now what you are going to do, you are going to read the story as much as the paragraph I have taught you. You would be going through the paragraph. If you are having any problem, you would be asking me. So tomorrow I'll be again taking up the next part of the story. Right? Till then, goodbye.